right, so thank you so much, Hansa, for the invitation. We're going to take about half an hour, and the good news is that you guys are going to do half, if not more, of the presentation. This is the challenge. I've eaten a lot of slides and PowerPoint in my life. I have no desire to eat more, and I do not want to inflict pain into people by killing them to death with them moving slides. So I've got something really simple here. So a few words about me to begin with. I'm a local, I guess you could say that, or at least I was born here. I've lived elsewhere for quite a while in my life and ended up returning. I'm originally an engineer. I don't know if it shows or not, but I've learned business very, very quickly. I spent about 30 years of my life into the enterprise IT world. So that means mostly big American multinational companies. I got to live through the very early days of internet. When I started, there was no browser. And now I'm full in on this Web3 thing. Why? Very simple reason. As I got to live the first days of the internet, when I look at this now, it all tastes, sounds, smells, feels like so I'd like to think that I've learned something along the way, and I sort of know where things are going right now. The problems are exactly the same, except for one single fact, which is the time scale, which is very heavily compressed. Stuff that used to take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, now boils down to 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It's a trend. It's even more pronounced when you go into AI, for example. If you see all the fuss that's been around in the last couple of months, the day when Facebook's LLM, Llama, leaked out was mid-February this year. So all the craziness that's been happening, it's been happening on a weekly basis, okay? So what do I do today, which is also the other relevant thing? I run Business Club, which is a consulting company that is taking Web3 to the corporate world. We go full cycle from the strategy, enablement, the marketing, and eventually the technology. We don't do just the technology, it's crazy. Customers have no idea what this thing is for. And we have no time and no patience to go to that part because we end up always having to educate them. And I'm also a general partner at the Web3 Investment Fund, located here in Lisbon. We invest in Web3 startups, which have projects that have utility and which are going to change the world and make that unicorn. We're running an accelerator program together with Startup Wise Guys. If any of you has one of these universe-denting ideas and wants to apply, check out our Startup Wise Guys website. There's something in there around Web3. The accelerator is going to start early November. Get enrolled, we'll have a look at you. So today, we're going to talk about what's going to trigger the next wave of adoption in Web3. And I want to talk a little bit in terms of what technology is. Technology is like plumbing, okay? I don't get a lot of kudos from my fellow colleague engineers when I say this, but that's exactly what it is. It's like hot water. You want to tap at your home, you want to turn it open, and you want hot water to pour out. Nobody cares where it comes from, how it got hot, and the rest of the stuff. So, in that sense, people do not worry about the roots and what's behind it. I bet very little of you know how a car engine works. Who knows? Show of hands. Who know how an internal combustion engine works? Or
It's clearly you're an engineer because you focused the question on ice, not on all the cars.
yeah, but you still can go from point A to point B. That's okay, and that's the utility of the technology, and that's how people look at it because they don't care less. It's electric, non-electric, this or that, as long as it fills in the function. Then there's some people that like to think of it. No. How many horsepower does it make? How fast it is, and so on and so forth. Believe me, that's not the majority of people. So technology at the end of the day is always something that allows business to be leveraged. Think of the examples of the Industrial Revolution, the first time that the internal combustion engine was invented, what happened after that, electricity as well. So it's one of those sort of life-changing moments that come every now and then. And then people build business on top of it without having to understand exactly how it works. They can look at it as magic, not a problem. But the world looks at this in terms of utility, not in terms of the technology that it's used. So that's the first one. So I want to run a couple of numbers through you so that we can sort of get on the same page. Who wants to take a guess? Slide or more written?
Important slide.
So what's the first number over here? 8.1 billion.
Number of people, population.
Right. Maybe there's a little bit more, maybe there's a little bit less, but who cares? But it helps to understand that there's around 8.1 billion people on the face of the earth. Okay, so when you think about total addressable markets and shit like that, don't just say that you'll have billions of people, because there's only 8 of them. And it helps to frame things. What is this number over here, 5.3?
People who use phones or internet.
Access to internet.
Mobile phone.
Yeah.
Internet. It's not phones, it's internet. So there's 5.3 billion people using the internet in some way, shape, or form. What's the last number? 3 billion.
Access to computers.
Nope, that's a little bit more far-fetched, but
The number of users
of
users of the no, the number of the users maybe in the with wallets in the system.
that would be nice, but it's not.
It's maybe 0.03 million.
The transactions of
No,
numbers.
number of users of Facebook.
It reached 3 billion.
I just right. And let's sort of see what crypto is doing nowadays. So you've got roughly a 1 trillion asset class, which is sort of okay. I mean, it varies a little bit depending on if it goes down or if it goes up. You've got around 67 billion in terms of projected market size for blockchain in 2026. So that's growing at about 70% year on year compound. And you've got 1.5 trillion in terms of projected global metaverse market size. Okay. In 2029, from 100 billion in 2022, at a roughly 50% compound. A little side note.
Sorry, could you define metaverse market? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, good question.
Anything, well, you can check the source if you want. That helps. It's Fortune, but it basically throws everything in there. AR, VR, whatever R, XR stuff. I'm not too worried about the classifications, but it helps to have sort of the big picture of things and where we're going. By the way,
When you say market size, you mean invoiceable payments?
money. Money
Not company valuations.
No,
but,
valuations.
payments.
Valuations is stuff that people put on a piece of paper.
Exactly.
And mark
Paper money versus actual
Yeah,
paid
exactly.
money.
Exactly. Okay. So, as a point of comparison, internet in 2000 had around 400 million users. So 23 years ago, this is where we were. Okay. By the way, who knows when Google was founded? Which year?
1999.
No, 2008 was it?
No,
2004.
80 something.
97.
Okay.
Okay,
So at least we have the NS back then.
so how many crypto slash Web3, call it what you want, users do we have today? Who wants to take a guess?
101.
30? No,
100.
I don't think so.
I would say 500. 500.
That would be nice, but it's not. Too hard.
Yeah, 100 now.
There was a valuation for Binance for 129 million users a while ago.
That sounds more like it. It's highly debatable. The number that I have is this one, 320 million.
So it includes, yeah.
So basically, you don't go around asking people if they use Web3 or not. You need to use proxies, which basically have to do with number of wallets and active wallets and stuff like that, which basically means that we get into the average game. And if on average, each one of us has half a chicken for lunch, I might have ended up eating the full chicken and ate nothing, but on average, it is what it is. Meaning that there's people that have hundreds or thousands or millions of wallets, and there's people that have one. We don't know. But I think this is good enough to sort of give us a perspective of where this thing is right now. Any more comments?
So that would be addressable market today without bringing
That's-
anybody else in.
That's the number of users today. Okay, so the addressable market depends on what you do on top of these people and what sort of thing you will offer to them.
If you offer an offer, for example, this is your market.
Yeah. In terms of number of people, not in terms of value of money.
Exactly.
Okay?
Where do they live? On the planet?
That would be nice.
Yeah, of course.
It's-
But
If you had geolocation tags to
Okay,
the
so I
addresses, it
said
would be
maybe there is some.
I have something that's might sort of help a little bit further in the PowerPoint. I'm not going to spoil it, but it is what it is. I mean, you have very little idea of where these people came from. It's not again. It's not like you go about and interviewing everybody on the street and that. So the point then becomes 320 million. What next, right?
Like internet users in 12,000. Yeah.
So
7.78 billion.
So we need it to 10x this thing and get to 3 billion. And the question then becomes how fast we can make it. I mean, you can put it in terms of timing, obviously. It will be quite fast, I'm convinced, for a very simple reason. Technology cycles are sort of squeezing. And think about it. It helps to go a little bit further down into history lane and understand what happened. Television took about 50 or 60 years to get widespread. VCRs, I don't know if most of you know what I'm talking about, took a little bit more. CDs were quite fast. Then came DVDs. So the pace of technology gets on and on and on. And these things have very squeezed cycles. That means that there's a lot of stuff that's happening at the same time. And either you focus on this or you're going to miss the trend. That much I can tell you. Okay. So then the question becomes how do we do this? How do we 10x this thing? Because that's what we need for this market to become. Okay? And I think it's going to pick up. I don't know if anybody agrees with me or not really. I guess it doesn't matter. But we need this thing to do at least 10x. Okay? And sort of go from a situation where you represent 4% of the population, 6% of internet users, 10% of Facebook users, and so on and so forth. Who's going to pay for this? This is a planetary event that needs to happen. Who's gonna pay for this?
Was it starting from product owners? Product owners, people who build products.
Yeah, but product owners by definition are not swimming in money.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. What else? I wanna hear more.
VCs. Venture
You could,
capital
you could,
funds.
you could argue VCs, but then again, the firepower.
Not all of it.
Yeah, but the firepower is limited at the end of the day. Okay, so, and VCs are not exactly non-profit organizations. So
Corporates and governments.
governments, really?
Some part of adoption, but by the technology, not the exactly this in full cycle, but part of adoption will come definitely.
Yeah,
I think
It brings nations
but
forward.
it's also, I think, probably.
Companies are part of the problem.
Companies.
With whose money?
VC funds.
VC funds and.
That's
Can we go for institutional money or should we have to go for private equity?
Early crypto.
Could you please get up and say what you just said a couple of seconds ago?
Corporations.
Corporations, yeah.
I think it's corporations. So let's go academic. Who knows what this is all about?
What piece of marketing? What piece of marketing? Yeah.
This is all that shit. Was sort of put out by a gentleman named Kotler, Philip Kotler. It sort of helps to see what other people did. They were not entirely stupid, and we can learn from that. So a healthy curiosity for reading and for books, it helps. And basically, what this framework gives you is sort of a point of view of looking at how these things happen in the market. So, product is one thing. If you want to sell something, product is one thing. Product is what it is. Whose responsibility is it to come up with a product?
Entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs, startups, product managers, developers, whatever. It is what it is. It's better or it's worse according to the point where we are in terms of the cycle. It either fulfills the need or not really, but that's something that is not exactly very controllable on a widespread scale. Another one is pricing, which again is what it is, and that's a very difficult one because most people are used to being the product themselves in Web2. So getting somebody to pay for shit, it's really hard. But it needs to happen in some way, shape, or form. Okay, but this part here, product and pricing, I would argue that at this point in time is the part that's less worried. Let's put it like that. What really matters is what you see on your right-hand side, which is the placement, also known as distribution, and the promotion. And when we say it's the corporate world that's going to pay for this, how is it going to happen? Let's hear it.
Well, the marketing budgets are at the corporations' decisions. So that's one side. And the place where most of the marketing budget is spent today is at a or a few corporations.
There's a trick in this framework. That the placement part actually should be called distribution, but then again it wouldn't fit because it wouldn't be the 4 P's. It would be the 3 P's and the D.
And the D.
Which so it's the promotion, is how you get a word out in terms of what your product is and communicate what advantages it does to people. And then there's the placement. This used to be really relevant in the days where you actually had to distribute a physical product. So like when you go into the supermarket and you see all these fantastic apples and bananas and this and that, it had to get there, the product. So, and that costs money because there's logistics behind it. The Web3 product is mostly digital, so distribution sort of piggybacks on top of the internet to a large extent. It's over generalizing, but the key thing is the promotion, which is where people will actually become aware that there's something in there that delivers value.
Can you think of the distribution as the applications that we access the Web3 part from? Like if you have to do command line, most of us are going to be
Forget it.
hit by the situation. But if you have something with pretty buttons that shows you a chart,
It's
everybody
not,
can use that.
yeah, it's not just a pretty button. I go back to my previous boards. A lot of people don't care what's under the hood in terms of the engine. They care about usability, they care about customer journeys and all of that. So the moment you start trying to teach your grandmother that there's MetaMask, that there are transactions that need to be signed, and things like that, you overlook. It's not going to get it. Okay. So the customer journey sort of thing, which is I'll take you by the hand, come with me. You can look at stuff and it's really idiotic proof what we need to do to make this thing work or to make this thing happen. That's when things start to get interesting. Because you have no enablement, you have no teaching, you have no education. People just roll on top, and if your value proposition is good, they'll buy it. Because there's no friction, there's no barriers to it. Okay?
Value proposition plus distribution channel, okay-ish, at least.
That's a very long conversation. What is the next big distribution channel? I mean, we could spend hours discussing that. Is it an app store? I'm not sure, but then again, probably it's some sort of iteration or version.
What I mean is the distribution channel you should be able to access it to your phone or to your computer, but without a huge learning curve.
With no learning curve. That's not huge or little. It's no learning curve.
Interesting approach.
Okay? The minute you need to think about doing stuff, you're going to lose the idiotic part of the population that does not know, does not want to know, or has no way of knowing.
There's no time.
If I tell you to go and read a book, how many of you have read books in let's say, since the beginning of this? You're bullshitting.
Do audiobooks count?
Read books.
In more than one
Yeah.
or just
One would be nice. I mean, the attention span of people today is zero. I mean, after 7 seconds, they just go like, YouTube videos are too long. I want TikToks with 10 seconds. And we all get sort of trained in and brought up and raised in this sort of thing. And then that seriously conditions the way that we're able to absorb information and learn. So if you drop the habit of reading, you need to do something about it. I'm not saying exactly go back and read, but find alternative sources at least. Go ahead.
Actually, I don't know, but going back to the distribution channels, I think there's some things that we carry on doing, but we just do it in a different way. For example, maybe I don't watch that much TV, but I listen to so many podcasts. So and they're an hour long, but I still listen to them, but it's more selected, and the way that it's distributed has changed.
Exactly. So that's sort of the paradigm. How this thing is going to find you, that's the golden question, right? If people knew that, they would be doing it, and they would be having huge success. So, again, distribution, and somebody's going to have to pay the lunch. Worldwide spend on marketing 2023. 875 billion. So this is what's going to pay off, in my opinion. Mind you that US and China represent a big chunk out of this. Different markets, different ways of looking at stuff. different ways of doing things, but this is what you have. Now, this is an interesting one, and it talks about geography to your point of view. What are the hotspots? So how many of you are founders and have startups? Nice crowd. So this is where you need to be, fellows. It's on the hotspots. Don't go to Australia. There's nothing there but kangaroos.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Surface paradise, yes.
So you can see these parts of India and China fading up. The US will always be the US. Europe is sort of behind the curve. But this is where the money is. Can I go?
Can I just add something to that?
Sure.
Because, so if you go and pay for advertising in certain regions, they generally distribute things based on how effective they assume that advertising will be. So you're saying that the most effective place to try to get your advertising is in that Southeast Asia, China.
I'm telling you where the money is. It's up to you to go get it and convince them to spend the money with you. Okay? So there's another dimension to this thing, which is, yeah, the money's there, but I mean, is it available? Are they willing to spend it on Web3, whatever that means? Another conversation. Second derivative, are they willing to spend it on your product? And so on and so forth. Okay?
In Africa?
Yeah, but it's negative 7.8%.
It's negative growth practically from
But from
certain
Nigeria,
areas.
it starts.
It's an average annual growth in investment by regional block 2015-2018. So negative growth means eventually it dries up.
It helps a little bit when you go and search for the data, right? It helps you do a little bit more informed decision. Now, the other thing which is really nice is, okay, and where are the crypto natives? Who wants to comment on the chart?
You're in the wrong place at the right time.
There's a very hot space here in the middle of Europe. What is it?
When there's this
Ukraine?
one. Why is Ukraine so hot?
Because
Because July 21.
Well, because there's a war there and the
July
government.
21.
No, it's July 21.
Yes, sir.
July 21 is
Okay,
about 8 months
I'll
before.
explain to you because the Ukraine is a very unstable economy and there's a big devaluation. So you have three options: you store your money
So like
in real
Turkey,
estate.
the lira, their
Yeah, like with Turkey. But Ukraine is very crypto friendly and Turkey might not be. I'm surprised that China is so dark there.
I'm surprised that Turkey is the darker. Yeah.
Correct, but Ukraine is more crypto friendly than Turkey.
Makes sense.
And people in Ukraine, I mean, like, you know, you've got devaluation of 50% sometimes in 10 years.
Why is Vietnam?
As well, just Bitcoin.
That like,
Why is
no
China
idea.
there?
okay, cool. So Vietnam's just special.
So I believe on your map, India is the top
But that's
on
Yeah.
one side. And what's that line?
Now, put them all together and go to India, everyone.
Here?
yes.
Almost that one, yes.
Yeah.
This has got to be Vietnam.
Yeah, that's huge.
I think there's maybe no.
Anybody here from
North Korea is
Argentina?
green.
Anybody here from Argentina?
was like 2 years.
No?
Yeah.
So Argentina, for example, is easy to explain. Well, actually, the South American part is quite easy to explain. There's so much inflation in there that what they do basically, the minute that they get some money, they immediately convert it to die. I've been told. I have no idea why. I I think they use DAI. That's what I've been told.
Trust USDT.
It's stable coins.
Yeah. Doesn't matter really.
National flavor.
So there's a parallel economy going on in terms of stables, and they just cross the line whenever they have no option. I think I was with an Argentinian guy on Wednesday. He told me that this year they're going to have around 110% of inflation, something like that, which is absolutely crazy. How's this going to happen? So, how are you going to go and get your fair share of the pie?
I would say that you receive attention, but I would put one thing in the middle that enter business money, venture, not venture, but institutional money first to raise the price and get attention again, and then things will be built for you.
I've shown you where the money is. How are you going to get it? If at all?
Influencers?
I guess that's one thing. So
You're with the bank for a while.
I don't have the answer. Well, I have a few, but I don't have the answer. Otherwise, I would not be. Come on, this is your part.
Legal stuff.
Like you have to go there. You have to go there and be on the ground. Some of the best experiences I've had was like at a crypto conference in Manila, where you just got like very heavy engagement from the public. Singapore, which is going on right now, I think 29. But Singapore is a great conference as well. Like you can do that direct engagement, I guess, and go out there and actually say, hey guys, this is my product. That might be old fashioned, but
It's an obvious thing. I mean, you want it, don't chase it, right?
yeah.
Get your ass there.
But the money you're talking about is marketing spend here. So how do we go and get somebody else's marketing budget to be spent with us? That's actually the question.
Which is an easy one to enunciate.
Is the
Maybe not.
marketing agency there for crypto?
Yeah, don't talk to the customers, man. They're the ones that on the budget.
Make contacts that can speak the language, set up a chop shop in Manila that does calls for you, and then hammer out 1,000 calls.
You're hustling it, which is also fine. Let me give you a more sophisticated perspective. Who knows about this? You spoke about it. Tell us.
Yeah, sure. So it's the Odyssey Starbucks program. They sold injection of mention it, which I said that they sold like 2,020 minutes or something crazy, and they basically they make their customers have to earn to then get these stamps, win these stamps and NFTs, and then if they have an NFT type, then they can unlock experiences.
Yeah. Any comments?
And they don't sell that as NFT.
They don't say it's NFT design.
This is most important.
But you can trade them on Nifty Gateway, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
But they don't tell them it's a Web3 program or that it's NFTs. They talk about digital collectibles and stuff like that.
Don't tell you it's plumbing.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Do people have it in their Starbucks app or
It's only available in the US.
Yeah, only in the US, of course, but it's an in-app thing. Yes.
So this is a sophisticated way on how the people that actually own the money look at this thing. Okay. So they want to get more engagement, they want to get more people, they want to get more loyalty, they want to get more whatever. And they come up with these things. Okay. So if you want to go and get some of that budget, you need to speak this language. See how you can fit in the middle of all of this and tell them a story. This is just one example. I mean, I could have brought 500 and it wouldn't be enough. But this is just one example. One thing that went really well. The day that they've launched it, Polygon had a surge of 2% in terms of transactions. So that's how people are looking at it. Suddenly there's 10 people flooding over there and using the thing. It's an NFT, who cares? Sort of a tradable, digital, whatever. More ideas.
Get Walmart on it.
Hmm?
Get Walmart on it. Get Harry Potter to buy Bitcoin. And there we go. We've got, 1.3 billion people who watch those things.
Get the Christmas bear from Coca-Cola.
There's another one.
Why only America? WeChat, go there.
Speak up.
WeChat and go there.
Well, that's Chinese. I don't think we'll be able to.
They will be able. Then you probably one day they will. Otherwise, they're not.
Well, not today.
But
Chinese against crypto.
soon.
I'm going to close it before Hansa kills me.
Yeah.
This is what I had to tell you. This is what we do. Sort of take it to them and we hope and understand from their perspective how to integrate this. And thank you so much. I hope it's fun.